When my husband's mistress cornered me at a charity gala and called me the homewrecker, I knew my perfect life was about to shatter. But what she didn't know was that I had the power to destroy them both, and I was about to use it. Before we dive back in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if this story resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is something truly special I can't wait to share. The crystal chandeliers of the Grandview Hotel ballroom sparkled like diamonds as I stepped out of the elevator on the 5th floor. My heels clicked against the marble as I made my way toward the presidential suite. It had been 3 exhausting days in Singapore finalizing the merger deal, and all I wanted was a hot bath and some quiet time before heading home to Riverside City. I had texted my husband, Derek, letting him know I'd returned early. He said he was working late at the office. Again. As I reached for my suite door, a sharp voice cut through the hallway. Well. Look what we have here. I turned to see a woman in her late 20s strutting toward me, her designer dress hugging every curve. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. 3 other women flanked her like a pack of wolves cornering their prey. I didn't recognize any of them. Excuse me? I said, trying to place her face. Do I know you? The woman's lips curled into a cruel smile. Oh, you don't know me, but I know exactly who you are, sweetie. The venom in her voice made me take a step back. Something was very wrong here. I think you have me confused with someone else. Confused? She laughed, and it was a harsh, grating sound. I don't think so. You're the little tramp who's been sleeping with M.Y. Derek. Did you really think you could show up at his hotel, our hotel, and parade around like you own the place? My blood ran cold. Derek. She said Derek. I'm sorry, but I think there's been a misunderstanding, I started, but she cut me off. Save it. Her hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. Girls, we caught her red-handed. Derek's been cheating on me with this pathetic homewrecker. My mind was racing. This woman thought I was Derek's mistress. But Derek was my husband. We'd been married for 5 years. Listen to me carefully, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I am not who you think I am. I'm actually. Actually what? Another woman stepped forward, her phone already recording. Actually desperate enough to steal someone else's man? You should be ashamed of yourself. Derek has been so good to me, the first woman continued, her voice dripping with false sweetness. He bought me this dress. These shoes. That car downstairs. He's taking me to Paris next month. And you think you can just waltz in here and take him from me? She turned to her friends. Can you believe this woman? She probably seduced him with her cheap tricks. Well, let me tell you something, sweetie, Derek loves me. Not some desperate side piece like you. I felt my chest tighten. Derek had been buying another woman gifts? Taking her to Paris? The same Derek who told me he was too busy for our anniversary dinner last month? You need to let me explain, I tried again. Explain? The woman's eyes flashed with rage. What's there to explain? You're a homewrecker. A husband stealer. And today, everyone's going to know exactly what kind of person you are. Before I could react, she lunged forward and grabbed the delicate silver locket hanging from my neck, the one that held a tiny photo of my late mother, the only picture I had left after the house fire that took her from me 10 years ago. Let's see what a cheap mistress wears, she sneered, yanking hard. The chain snapped. No. I reached for it, but she held it high above her head, dangling it like a trophy. What's this? A locket? Let me guess, a gift from Derek? She pried it open, squinting at the tiny photo inside. Who's this old woman? Your mother. How pathetic, wearing mommy's picture to seduce other women's men. It took a lot of care and time to prepare and narrate this for you, so if you're enjoying it, a quick subscribe really helps and means the world to us. Alright, let's get back to it. Please, I whispered, my voice breaking. That's all I have left of her. Please give it back. Oh, how touching," she mocked. "The mistress has feelings." "Well, you know what, I have feelings too. And you hurt them when you tried to steal my man." She threw the locket on the ground and stomped on it with her stiletto heel. Once. Twice. 3 times. The delicate silver crumpled under her shoe. The tiny photo, my mother's smiling face, tore and scattered across the marble floor. I dropped to my knees, trying to gather the pieces, my hands shaking. Tears blurred my vision. "Ah, look at her cry," one of the other women laughed. "Maybe she shouldn't have been a homewrecker." "You know what?" The ringleader's voice rose loud enough for other hotel guests to hear. "I'm not done with you yet. Derek is downstairs at the charity gala, my charity gala that he organized for my birthday. And I'm going to drag you down there and show everyone what kind of woman you really are." She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Get up," she hissed. "We're going to the ballroom. And when we get there, I'm going to make sure everyone knows you're nothing but a cheap, desperate mistress who destroys families." "Please, you don't understand." I tried to pull away, but her grip was iron tight. "Oh, I understand perfectly," she snarled. "You're a homewrecker. And homewreckers deserve to be exposed. Girls, help me get her downstairs. It's time everyone at this gala knew the truth about Derek's little side piece." The other women closed in around me, blocking any escape route. My mind was spinning. This woman, whoever she was, actually believed she was Derek's girlfriend. She had no idea that I was his wife. That this was all some terrible, twisted mistake. Or was it? As they dragged me toward the elevator, my lawyer's mind started clicking through the evidence. The gifts. The trips. The fact that Derek had told me he'd be at the office, but he was actually here at a charity gala. A gala supposedly for this woman's birthday. My heart sank as the pieces fell into place. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity at all. This woman wasn't confused about who I was. She was confused about who she was. And as the elevator doors opened and they shoved me inside, I realized with cold, crystalline clarity, Derek had been lying to both of us. But only one of us was about to find out the truth in the most humiliating way possible. The elevator descended toward the ballroom, and I could hear the woman behind me calling someone. "Derek, baby? You need to come to the lobby right now. I caught your mistress." "Yes, the one you've been sneaking around with." "Don't worry, sweetie, I'm handling it. I'm bringing her to the gala so everyone can see what kind of woman tries to steal someone else's man." As the numbers on the elevator panel counted down, 5, 4, 3, 2, I wiped my tears and straightened my spine. They wanted to expose someone at this gala? Fine. But it wasn't going to be me. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing the opulent lobby of the Grandview Hotel. The woman, who I still didn't know the name of, tightened her grip on my arm as she marched me toward the grand ballroom. The sounds of classical music and polite laughter drifted through the ornate double doors. "Wait here," she commanded her friends. "I want to make a proper entrance with our little homewrecker." 2 hotel staff members stood at the entrance, checking invitations. When they saw us approaching, me being dragged along like a criminal, their eyes widened. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" one of them asked, looking concerned. "Everything's perfect," the woman said with a saccharine smile. "We're just bringing someone to meet her boyfriend. He's inside." Derek Ashford? The man who organized this entire charity gala. At the mention of Derek's name, the staff members exchanged glances but stepped aside. The woman pushed through the doors, pulling me with her, her entourage following close behind. The Grandview ballroom was breathtaking. Hundreds of guests in evening wear mingled beneath soaring ceilings adorned with Renaissance-style frescoes. Ice sculptures shaped like swans graced every corner. A string quartet played near the stage where a massive banner read, "Riverside City Children's Hospital Charity Gala." "Everyone," the woman suddenly shouted, her voice cutting through the refined chatter like a knife. "Everyone, please. I have an announcement to make. The music stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Hundreds of faces turned toward us, wealthy donors, business executives, socialites, and community leaders. I recognized several of them, the mayor, the police chief, partners from rival law firms, even Judge Pemberton from the district court. My face burned with humiliation as all those eyes locked onto me, disheveled and tear-stained, being held captive by this woman I didn't even know. What's going on here? A distinguished man in his 60s approached us, Harrison Cole, CEO of Cole Industries and one of Riverside City's most influential philanthropists. Natasha, what is the meaning of this disruption? So her name was Natasha. Mr. Cole, I apologize for interrupting your lovely event, Natasha said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. But I simply had to expose this woman before she causes any more damage. Expose her? Mr. Cole's bushy eyebrows rose. Young lady, this is a charity event, not a theater production. Oh, but it is a production, sir, Natasha continued, playing to the crowd now. You see, this woman right here has been sleeping with my boyfriend. My Derek. The man who organized this entire gala out of the goodness of his heart. And she had the audacity to show up here, at our hotel, thinking she could continue her little affair right under everyone's noses. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones emerged from purses and pockets. I could see at least a dozen people already recording. That's a serious accusation, Judge Pemberton stepped forward, his weathered face stern. Do you have proof of this claim? Proof? Natasha laughed. Look at her. I caught her sneaking around the 5th floor, going into a hotel room. She's wearing cheap jewelry and probably has his hotel key card in her purse. What more proof do you need? This is outrageous, I finally managed to speak, my voice shaking. You have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about, Natasha cut me off. Derek and I have been together for 8 months. 8 months. He's taken me to the finest restaurants, bought me designer clothes, introduced me to his business associates. We're in love. And you're trying to ruin everything. 8 months? The words escaped before I could stop them. Yes, 8 months, Natasha snapped. Since last February. He swept me off my feet at a corporate conference in Capitol Bay. It was love at first sight. Last February. That was when Derek told me he needed to take more business trips for his promotion. My stomach churned. And now, Natasha continued, addressing the crowd, this desperate woman is trying to sink her claws into him. Probably after his money. Derek is VP of Operations at Thornhill Manufacturing, a very successful, very wealthy man. I'm sure she sees dollar signs. More whispers. More phones recording. I could see the headlines already, mystery woman exposed as homewrecker at charity gala. Where is Derek? An older woman in pearls asked. Shouldn't he be here to address this? Oh, he's here, Natasha smiled. Derek. Derek, baby, where are you? The crowd parted, and my heart dropped into my stomach. There he was. My husband of 5 years. Derek Ashford, looking handsome in his tailored tuxedo, his sandy hair perfectly styled. The man I'd fallen in love with in law school. The man who'd promised to stand by me through everything. But he wasn't alone. He was standing with another woman, blonde, elegant, wearing a red evening gown that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. They'd been chatting near the champagne fountain, and now both of them were staring at the commotion. Derek's face went pale when he saw me. Derek. Natasha waved enthusiastically. Come here, sweetheart. I caught your mistress. Derek didn't move. He looked frozen, his eyes darting between me, Natasha, and the blonde woman beside him. Derek? Natasha's smile faltered slightly. Baby, come here. I handled everything for you. You don't have to worry about this woman anymore. The blonde woman in red leaned toward Derek and whispered something in his ear. His face somehow went even paler. Everyone's waiting, Derek, Natasha called out again, a slight edge creeping into her voice. Come tell everyone how this woman has been harassing you. How she's been trying to break us apart. Derek finally moved, but not toward Natasha. He took a step back. Derek? Now Natasha sounded uncertain. What are you doing? Come here. Natasha, Derek's voice was barely audible. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Natasha's grip on my arm loosened slightly. What misunderstanding? This is your mistress. The one you told me about. The one who's been bothering you at work. I never told you about any mistress, Derek said quietly. The ballroom was so silent now you could hear a pin drop. Yes, you did. Natasha's voice rose. You said there was a woman at your office who wouldn't leave you alone. Someone who was obsessed with you. And when I saw her lurking around our hotel, I knew it had to be her. Natasha, listen, Derek started. No, you listen. Natasha released my arm and strode toward Derek. I've been patient. I've been understanding. You said you needed time before we could go public with our relationship. You said your family situation was complicated. But I've waited, Derek. I've been the perfect girlfriend. And now you're defending her? The blonde woman in red suddenly laughed, a short, sharp sound that made everyone turn to look at her. I'm sorry, she said, not sounding sorry at all. This is just too perfect. Natasha, sweetheart, you really don't know, do you? Know what? Natasha snapped. Who are you anyway? Another one of his mistresses? Oh, honey, the blonde woman smiled. I'm Cassandra Thornhill. My father owns Thornhill Manufacturing. And Derek here has been dating me for 6 months. The ballroom erupted in shocked murmurs. Natasha's face went white. What? No. That's impossible. Derek, tell her she's lying. Derek looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. 6 months, Cassandra continued, examining her perfectly manicured nails. He told me he was divorced. Said his ex-wife was crazy and obsessive. That's why he needed to keep our relationship quiet, didn't want her causing trouble. Daddy just promoted him to VP last month because of our relationship. No, Natasha shook her head. No, you're lying. Derek, tell her she's lying. Derek couldn't seem to form words. And you, Cassandra turned her sharp gaze to me. You must be the ex-wife he warned me about. The crazy obsessive one. Though you don't look very crazy to me. Just tired. I'm not his ex-wife, I said quietly, finding my voice at last. Everyone stared at me. I'm his current wife. We're still married. We've been married for 5 years. The ballroom exploded into chaos. What? Natasha shrieked. Married? Cassandra's composed mask cracked. Order. Order. Judge Pemberton bellowed, trying to restore calm. But it was too late. The truth was out, and like a dam breaking, there was no stopping the flood now. Natasha wheeled on Derek, her face contorted with rage and betrayal. You're married? You told me you were single. You said you lived alone. You said. You're married? Cassandra's voice was ice. My father promoted you because he thought you were going to be his son-in-law. You lied to us? Derek held up his hands, backing away from both women. I can explain. Explain? Natasha's voice cracked. You made me your mistress. You made me the other woman. And oh my God, I just publicly humiliated your wife thinking SHE was the mistress. The phones were recording everything now. Someone was live streaming. I could see the comments scrolling on their screen. This is insane. Better than Netflix. That man is toast. So let me get this straight, Mr. Cole said, his voice cutting through the noise. Derek, you're married to this woman, dating Natasha, and involved with Cassandra? All at the same time. Derek opened his mouth, but no sound came out. And Natasha, Judge Pemberton added, you physically assaulted and publicly humiliated a woman you didn't even know, destroyed her property, and dragged her here under false pretenses? Natasha's face crumpled. I didn't know. I thought, he said. I don't care what he said, the judge snapped. Your actions were reprehensible. Tears streamed down Natasha's face now. But he gave me gifts. He said he loved me. He said the same things to me, Cassandra interjected coldly. Looks like we were both played, sweetie. Natasha turned to me, mascara running down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were his wife. I thought. You thought you'd publicly destroy me without knowing the facts, I said, my voice steady now despite the trembling in my hands. You broke my mother's locket. The only thing I had left of her. You tried to humiliate me in front of hundreds of people. All because you were too blinded by designer bags and expensive dinners to see what kind of man you were really dealing with. The crowd murmured in agreement. Derek finally found his voice. Sweetheart, he started toward me. Don't you dare call me that, I said, taking a step back. Don't you dare come near me. Please, let me explain. Explain? I laughed, and it sounded hollow even to my own ears. What's there to explain, Derek? That you've been living a triple life? That you've been lying to me for months, no, years probably? That you let your mistress assault me because you were too much of a coward to tell the truth? It's not like that. Then what's it like? I demanded. Please, enlighten us all. Everyone here is dying to know how you justify this. Derek looked around at the hundreds of faces staring at him, judging him. The phone cameras recording every moment. The disgust evident in every expression. And then, like the coward he was, he ran. He turned and sprinted toward the exit, pushing through the crowd. Derek! Cassandra shouted. You get back here. My father will ruin you. But he was gone, disappearing through the ballroom doors. The room erupted in conversation, everyone talking at once, phones buzzing with notifications as the videos spread across social media. Natasha sank to the floor, sobbing into her hands. Cassandra stood rigid, her face a mask of cold fury. And I stood in the center of it all, surrounded by the wreckage of my marriage, my dignity in tatters. But something inside me had shifted. The tears were gone. The humiliation was fading. What remained was something much more dangerous. Clarity. And rage. The ballroom remained in chaos for several long moments. Voices overlapped, phones continued recording, and somewhere in the background, I could hear Natasha's sobbing growing louder. Judge Pemberton was trying to restore order, but the crowd was too invested in the drama unfolding before them. I stood perfectly still, my mind working at lightning speed despite the surreal nature of everything happening around me. Years of courtroom experience had taught me to stay calm under pressure, to assess situations quickly, and to recognize opportunities when they presented themselves. And right now, I was seeing opportunities everywhere. Mrs. Ashford? A gentle hand touched my shoulder. I turned to find Mr. Cole standing beside me, his weathered face showing genuine concern. Are you all right? Should I call someone for you? I'm fine, Mr. Cole, I said, straightening my posture. Though I appreciate your concern. What your husband did, what happened here tonight, it's unconscionable, he said quietly. If there's anything I can do. Actually, there is something, I said, an idea forming. I'd like to address the crowd, if you don't mind. His eyebrows rose. Are you certain? After everything that just happened. I'm certain. Mr. Cole studied my face for a moment, then nodded. He walked to the stage and picked up the microphone that had been abandoned when the chaos began. Ladies and gentlemen. His voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, please. If I could have your attention. The noise gradually died down. All eyes turned to the stage, then followed Mr. Cole's gesture toward me. Mrs. Ashford would like to say a few words, he announced. I walked toward the stage, my heels clicking against the marble floor with each step. I could feel every eye in the room following my movement. The phones were still recording, still live streaming. Good. I wanted this documented. As I climbed the steps to the stage and took the microphone from Mr. Cole, I caught sight of Natasha, still on the floor, her designer dress crumpled around her. Her friends had gathered around her, trying to comfort her. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Cassandra Thornhill stood near the champagne fountain, her arms crossed, watching me with calculating interest. She'd recovered from her shock quickly, a true businesswoman's daughter. I cleared my throat and spoke into the microphone. Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Olivia Ashford. I paused. Actually, that's not quite right. My name is Olivia Monroe Ashford. Monroe being my maiden name, which I kept professionally because I let the pause hang in the air for dramatic effect. Because I'm the founding partner of Monroe and Associates, the law firm that handles most of the corporate contracts in this city. Including, ironically, several contracts for Thornhill Manufacturing. The crowd's murmur rose again. I saw recognition dawning on several faces. Cassandra's eyes widened. Some of you may have worked with my firm before, I continued. We specialize in corporate law, contract negotiations, and, this is relevant, divorce proceedings for high net worth individuals. A few nervous laughs rippled through the audience. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Poor Olivia, humiliated at a charity gala, her marriage in ruins, her life falling apart. And you'd be partially right. This evening has been enlightening. I looked directly at the cameras recording me. But here's what I want everyone to understand. What happened here tonight, Natasha attacking me, destroying my property, dragging me here and attempting to publicly shame me, all of that was based on lies my husband told. Derek manipulated multiple women, constructed elaborate deceptions, and when his house of cards started collapsing, he ran away like the coward he is. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Natasha, I turned to look at her directly. Stand up, please. She looked startled, uncertain, but slowly got to her feet with help from her friends. You owe me an apology, I said clearly. Not the half-hearted one you gave earlier when you realized your mistake. A real one. In front of everyone here, just like you tried to humiliate me in front of everyone here. Natasha's face crumpled again. I'm so sorry, she whispered, but the microphone didn't pick it up. Louder, I said. Everyone needs to hear this. I'm sorry. Natasha's voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I destroyed your necklace, I hurt you, I said terrible things, I thought, I believed. You believed what a liar told you, I finished for her. You acted on assumptions without verifying facts. You committed assault and destruction of property based on the word of a man who was deceiving you from day one. Tears streamed down her face. I know. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make it right. We'll discuss that, I said. Then I turned my attention to Cassandra. Miss Thornhill. You and I need to have a conversation about your father's company. Cassandra raised her chin defiantly. What about it? Derek Ashford was promoted to Vice President of Operations 6 months ago, correct? Right around the time you two started dating? Yes, she said carefully. And did your father know you were dating an employee? Did he approve this relationship before granting the promotion? Cassandra's jaw tightened. My father trusted my judgment. I see. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Well, Miss Thornhill, I have some information that might interest both you and your father. You see, as Derek's wife, I have access to all of our joint financial records. And over the past 6 months, there have been some interesting transactions. I pulled out my phone, thankfully still in my jacket pocket, and opened my banking app. I'd been monitoring our accounts carefully for months, ever since I'd noticed suspicious charges. Large cash withdrawals. Transfers to offshore accounts. Purchases of stock in companies that compete directly with Thornhill Manufacturing. I looked up at her. Did you know your boyfriend, sorry, my husband, has been engaging in what appears to be insider trading? The gasps from the crowd were audible this time. Several business executives pushed forward, suddenly very interested. That's impossible, Cassandra said, but her voice wavered. Is it? I pulled up transaction records on my phone and held it toward her. These withdrawals happened the day before your father announced the merger with Kellerman Industries. These stock purchases were made a week before the quarterly earnings report. And these transfers, I scrolled through the records, these happened right after board meetings that Derek attended. Cassandra's face had gone white. He wouldn't, my father trusted him. Your father trusted him because he was sleeping with you, I said bluntly. Derek used your relationship to get access to confidential information, then profited from it. And I'm guessing he did the same thing at every company he's worked for. I turned back to the crowd, specifically looking at the other business leaders present. Mr. Hammond from Sterling Tech, didn't your company lose that contract bid last year? The one where the competing company somehow knew your exact pricing structure? Theodore Hammond, a silver-haired man in his 70s, stepped forward, his face grave. Yes. We never figured out how the leak happened. Derek worked in your acquisitions department at the time, didn't he? Hammond's eyes widened. My God. He did. And Mrs. Chen from Pacific Imports, that intellectual property theft case 2 years ago? The one that nearly bankrupted your company? An elegant Asian woman in a navy gown nodded slowly. Derek was our contracts manager then. He had access to all our proprietary designs. The pieces were clicking together in everyone's minds. I could see it on their faces, the recognition, the anger, the realization that they'd all been played. My husband, I said, putting emphasis on the word, has been running scams in this city for years. He marries for stability and reputation, me, the respectable lawyer. He dates wealthy women for access to their family's businesses, Natasha, Cassandra, probably others we don't know about. And he uses all of it to steal, manipulate, and profit. Judge Pemberton climbed onto the stage beside me. Mrs. Ashford, these are serious allegations. Do you have evidence to support all of this? I have 6 months of financial records, Your Honor. I have emails I've been collecting. I have documentation of every suspicious transaction, every unexplained absence, every lie. I looked directly into the nearest camera. And I have the full resources of Monroe and Associates behind me. We will be filing for divorce tomorrow morning. We will be pursuing charges of fraud, embezzlement, and insider trading. And we will be cooperating fully with any investigations from the companies he's defrauded. The crowd erupted again, but this time it wasn't chaos, it was righteous anger. Business leaders were already on their phones, calling their legal teams. Cassandra had her phone out, presumably calling her father. Even some of Natasha's friends were Googling Derek's name, probably discovering other victims. Furthermore, I continued, waiting for the noise to die down, I will be pressing charges against Natasha for assault and destruction of property. That necklace she destroyed belonged to my late mother. It was an antique worth approximately $40,000, and it held the only photograph I had left of her. Natasha made a sound like a wounded animal. 40,000, I didn't know, I can't pay. You'll pay, I said coldly. Either in money or in jail time. Your choice. But I was deceived too. Natasha cried. Derek lied to me. I thought I was protecting our relationship. And you'll have to answer for your actions regardless of his lies, I replied. Just like he'll answer for his. I turned back to the crowd one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight was supposed to be a charity gala. A night of giving and community. Instead, it became an exposure of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. But perhaps that's appropriate. Because the truth, no matter how ugly, is always worth revealing. I held up my phone with the financial records still displayed. Derek Ashford built his success on deception. He hurt people, stole from companies, and destroyed lives without conscience. But tonight, his empire of lies crumbles. And I promise you all, he will face justice for every single person he's harmed. The applause started slowly, just a few people at first. Then more joined in. Soon the entire ballroom was applauding, some people even standing. Not for me, I realized, but for the truth finally being exposed. As I stepped down from the stage, Mr. Cole approached me again. "That was quite a speech, Mrs. Ashford," he said. "Remind me never to get on your bad side. Just don't lie to me, Mr. Cole, and we'll get along fine." Cassandra intercepted me before I could leave the stage area. Up close, I could see that her composure was completely shattered. Her hands were shaking as she held her phone. "I just spoke to my father," she said quietly. He's devastated. He trusted Derek. We both did." "I know the feeling," I replied. "The board is meeting tomorrow morning. They're going to audit every deal Derek touched." She looked at me with something like respect. "You destroyed him in 10 minutes. With evidence I'm guessing you've been collecting for months." 6 months, I confirmed. "Since I first noticed the irregularities." "Why did you wait so long?" "Because I wanted to be sure. I wanted documentation that would hold up in court. And..." I paused. "And because part of me hoped I was wrong. That there was some explanation. That my husband hadn't been systematically destroying everything we built together." Cassandra nodded slowly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't change what happened, but I am. You were a victim too," I acknowledged. "Just like Natasha. Derek chose women he could manipulate. You wanted to please your father. Natasha wanted security and love. I wanted a partner I could trust. He exploited all of us." "What happens now?" Cassandra asked. I looked around the ballroom, at the business leaders making calls, at Judge Pemberton speaking with the police chief, at Natasha surrounded by her friends who were probably trying to figure out how much legal trouble she was in. "Now?" I smiled, and this time it was genuine. "Now we make him pay for everything he's done." The next morning arrived with the kind of crisp autumn clarity that made everything seem sharper, more focused. I'd barely slept, spending most of the night in my office at Monroe and Associates, preparing documents with my paralegal team. By 6 a.m., we had everything ready. My phone had been buzzing non-stop since the gala. The videos had gone viral, millions of views across every platform. Charity Gala Divorce Exposure was trending nationwide. News outlets were calling. My secretary had fielded 47 interview requests before I told her to stop counting. But I wasn't interested in interviews yet. I had work to do. At 8 a.m. sharp, I walked into the courthouse with my senior partner, James Mitchell, carrying 3 briefcases full of evidence. Judge Pemberton had agreed to an emergency hearing, given the circumstances and the public nature of the situation. Derek's lawyer, a young associate from a mid-tier firm, looked absolutely terrified when we entered the courtroom. Derek himself sat slumped in his chair, wearing yesterday's wrinkled tuxedo. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "All rise," the bailiff announced as Judge Pemberton entered. The hearing lasted 4 hours. We presented everything, financial records showing Derek had siphoned over $2 million from our joint accounts into hidden offshore holdings. Emails proving he'd sold confidential information to competing companies. Text messages to multiple women, each one believing they were his only love. Bank statements showing expensive gifts purchased on credit cards I didn't know existed, cards he'd opened using my credit score and our joint assets as collateral. Derek's lawyer tried to mount a defense, but it crumbled within minutes. How could you defend someone when the evidence was so overwhelming? "Mr. Ashford," Judge Pemberton finally said, removing his glasses and rubbing his eyes. "In my 30 years on the bench, I've seen many divorce cases. But the level of deception, fraud, and manipulation you've engaged in is truly staggering." Derek said nothing. I'm granting Mrs. Ashford's petition for immediate divorce on grounds of adultery and fraud. Furthermore, given the evidence of financial crimes, I'm freezing all of your assets pending criminal investigation. You are ordered to vacate the marital home within 24 hours and maintain a distance of at least 500 feet from Mrs. Ashford at all times. Your Honor, I stood. There's one more matter. The criminal charges. Yes. Judge Pemberton shuffled through the documents. I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for prosecution on charges of fraud, embezzlement, and insider trading. Bail is set at $500,000. Derek's face went gray. I don't have that kind of money. You don't have any money anymore, his lawyer whispered urgently. She froze everything. That's not possible. Derek turned to look at me for the first time. Olivia, please. We can work this out. I made mistakes, but... Mistakes? My voice was ice. You stole from me. You stole from my clients' companies. You used my reputation to build your credibility while you were running scams across the city. Those weren't mistakes, Derek. That was a calculated criminal enterprise. But I love you. You don't know what love is, I cut him off. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't manipulate and destroy everyone around it. Judge Pemberton banged his gavel. That's enough. Mr. Ashford, you're remanded to custody until bail is posted. Next case. As the bailiffs led Derek away, he kept looking back at me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and desperation. I felt nothing. The man I'd married, or thought I'd married, had never really existed. Outside the courthouse, a crowd of reporters surged forward. I'd prepared a brief statement with my PR team. Ladies and gentlemen, this morning Judge Pemberton granted my divorce from Derek Ashford and referred criminal charges to the district attorney. I want to thank everyone who has reached out with support, and I want to encourage anyone else who may have been victimized by Mr. Ashford's schemes to contact my office. We're working with multiple companies and individuals to document the full extent of his fraudulent activities. That's all I have to say at this time. Mrs. Ashford. A reporter shouted. What about the other women? Natasha and Cassandra? No comment on ongoing matters, I said, pushing through the crowd toward my car. But I did have plans for both of them. Back at my office, I found Natasha sitting in my waiting room. She looked terrible, eyes swollen from crying, makeup free, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of designer clothes. She stood up nervously when she saw me. Mrs. Ashford, I know you probably don't want to see me, but please. Come into my office, I said. She followed me inside, wringing her hands. I sat behind my desk and gestured for her to take a seat across from me. I spoke with my lawyer, Natasha began, her voice shaking. She said you're pressing charges for assault and destruction of property. She said I could face jail time and owe you tens of thousands of dollars. That's correct. Mrs. Ashford, I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I thought, Derek told me you were obsessed with him, that you wouldn't leave him alone, that you were trying to ruin his life. He showed me fake messages he claimed were from you. He was so convincing. He's a professional liar, I said. That doesn't excuse what you did to me. I know. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I lost my job this morning. The company saw the videos and said I was a liability. My landlord called, apparently the apartment Derek was paying for. That wasn't his apartment. It belonged to one of his other girlfriends. She's kicking me out. Everything he gave me, the car, the clothes, the jewelry, I have to return it all because they were purchased with fraudulent credit. I pulled out a legal pad and began writing. How much money did Derek get from you over the 8 months you were together? Natasha looked confused. Get from me? He didn't. I mean, I paid for some dinners when his credit card wasn't working, and I loaned him $15,000 for what he said was a business investment, but... $15,000, I noted. Did you get that back? No. He said the investment needed more time. There was no investment. He pocketed that money. I continued writing. What else? I let him use my credit cards a few times. For business expenses, he said. Maybe another $10,000 total? $25,000. I looked up at her. Natasha, Derek didn't just lie to you, he stole from you too. You're a victim of fraud. Her eyes widened. But I gave him the money willingly. Under false pretenses. That's fraud. I pulled out a document from my briefcase. I'm building a case against Derek that includes all of his victims. Not just the companies, but the women he manipulated and stole from. I've already identified 3 others besides you and Cassandra. 3 others? Natasha whispered. At least 3. There might be more. I slid the document across the desk. This is a victim impact statement. If you fill it out completely and honestly, detailing everything Derek told you, everything he promised, every dollar you gave him, it will help build the criminal case against him. But what about the charges against me? I leaned back in my chair. Here's what I'm proposing. You cooperate fully with the investigation against Derek. You testify when the time comes. You make a public statement apologizing for your actions and warning other women about manipulation tactics. And you pay restitution for my mother's necklace. $40,000, Natasha said miserably. I don't have it. I don't have anything. I know. So we'll set up a payment plan. $500 a month until it's paid off. That'll take you about 7 years, but it's manageable. Her head snapped up. You'd do that? You'd let me pay it off instead of going to jail? I don't want revenge on you, Natasha. I want justice against Derek. And I want you to learn from this and never attack someone again without knowing the full story. She started crying again, but this time with what looked like relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll cooperate with everything. I'll testify. I'll do whatever you need. Good. Sign here. I pushed the victim statement and payment agreement toward her. As she signed, my secretary buzzed in. Mrs. Ashford? Cassandra Thornhill is here to see you. She says it's urgent. I raised an eyebrow at Natasha. Looks like you'll have company. When Cassandra entered, she froze at the sight of Natasha. The 2 women stared at each other, Derek's 2 known mistresses, meeting face to face in their victim's office. Sit down, Miss Thornhill, I said. Cassandra sat, her designer handbag clutched in her lap. Unlike Natasha, she was perfectly put together, hair-styled, makeup flawless, wearing a business suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. But I could see the tension in her shoulders, the tightness around her eyes. My father fired Derek this morning, she said without preamble. The board conducted an emergency audit last night. They found evidence of embezzlement going back 6 months, nearly $800,000 missing from various accounts. Derek had been creating fake vendor invoices and pocketing the payments. I wrote that down. $800,000. That's more than I expected. There's more. Cassandra's voice was tight. He had access to our server and apparently copied confidential files about our upcoming merger with Kellerman Industries. We found evidence he sold that information to our competitor, Hastings Corporation. They used it to outbid us. We lost a $50 million deal because of him. $50 million, I repeated. My father is devastated. He trusted Derek. I trusted Derek. He was going to be, her voice cracked slightly. We were talking about getting engaged. I introduced him to my family. My grandmother adored him. Natasha spoke up quietly. He told me he was going to propose at Christmas. He even showed me ring designs. Cassandra turned to look at her, really look at her, for the first time. He showed you ring designs? A 3-carat emerald cut diamond. He said it reminded him of my eyes. He told me the same thing, Cassandra said flatly. Except mine was a 2-carat cushion cut. The two women stared at each other, and something shifted in the room. The rivalry, the animosity, it drained away, replaced by a shared recognition of how thoroughly they'd both been played. "I'm sorry," Natasha said suddenly. "For what I did last night. I should have verified things before I attacked Mrs. Ashford. I was so sure, so convinced that Derek loved me and that she was the problem. But I was the problem. We both were. We believed a liar." Cassandra was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "I owe you an apology too, Mrs. Ashford. I was smug last night. Proud that I'd won, somehow. But there was no winning. We were all losing from the moment Derek entered our lives." I pulled out 2 more victim impact statements. "Then let's make sure he loses too. Both of you, fill these out. Every detail. Every lie he told, every promise he made, every dollar he took or convinced you to spend. We're building a case that will put him away for years." "How many years?" Natasha asked. I did the mental calculation. Fraud, embezzlement, insider trading, identity theft. If we can prove even half of what I suspect, he's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Possibly more if other victims come forward. "Good," Cassandra said coldly. "I want him to rot." As both women bent over their statements, writing furiously, my phone buzzed with a text from James Mitchell. "DA's office just called. They found evidence Derek has been running similar scams in 3 other states. FBI is getting involved. This is bigger than we thought." I smiled grimly. Derek's empire wasn't just crumbling, it was being demolished brick by brick, and I was holding the sledgehammer. "Ladies," I said, looking at both Natasha and Cassandra. "I think it's time we formed an alliance. Derek hurt all of us. He stole from all of us. So let's make sure he pays for all of it." They both looked up at me, and I saw the same determination in their eyes that I felt in my chest. "What do you need us to do?" Cassandra asked. I opened my laptop and pulled up a spreadsheet. "Let's start by making a list of every single thing Derek Ashford has ever done wrong. And then we're going to make sure the world knows exactly what kind of monster he really is." 3 weeks had passed since the charity gala that destroyed Derek's carefully constructed world of lies. In that time, everything had moved with surprising speed, though I'd made sure every step was calculated, documented, and legally airtight. The FBI had indeed gotten involved, just as James Mitchell predicted. What started as a local divorce case had exploded into a multi-state investigation. Agents discovered Derek had been running similar schemes in California, Texas, and Florida over the past decade. There were at least 11 other women who'd been manipulated, defrauded, and discarded. Combined losses from corporate theft exceeded $12 million. This morning, I sat in the federal courthouse for Derek's sentencing hearing. The gallery was packed, victims, reporters, business leaders, and curious onlookers who'd followed the case obsessively on social media. Natasha sat 2 rows behind me, nervously twisting her hands. Cassandra was across the aisle with her father, both wearing matching expressions of grim satisfaction. Derek was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hands cuffed. He looked gaunt, aged 10 years in 3 weeks. His expensive haircut had grown shaggy. The confident swagger I'd once found attractive was completely gone, replaced by the hunched posture of a broken man. He glanced at me once, and I saw something flicker in his eyes, regret, maybe, or just self-pity. I looked away. He deserved neither my attention nor my sympathy. "All rise," the bailiff announced. Federal Judge Patricia Carmichael entered, a stern woman in her 60s with a reputation for harsh sentences in fraud cases. She reviewed the documents before her, taking her time, letting the tension build. "Mr. Ashford," she finally said. "I've reviewed the evidence presented by the prosecution, including victim impact statements from 14 individuals and 7 corporations. The scope of your criminal enterprise is truly breathtaking in its audacity and callousness." She listed the charges: wire fraud, securities fraud, identity theft, embezzlement, insider trading. Each one carried significant prison time. Your actions destroyed lives, Mr. Ashford. You didn't just steal money, you stole trust, dignity, and years of people's lives. The women you manipulated believed they were building futures with you. The companies you defrauded lost not just capital, but competitive advantage and employee livelihoods. Derek's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client recognizes the gravity of his mistakes and wishes to express his deep remorse. Mistakes? Judge Carmichael's voice cut like a blade. Counselor, mistakes are errors in judgment. What your client engaged in was systematic, premeditated fraud spanning over a decade. This was not a mistake. This was a lifestyle. She turned her attention back to Derek. Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence? Derek stood slowly. For a moment, I thought he might apologize, might show some genuine remorse. Instead, he turned to look directly at me. Olivia, he said, his voice hoarse. I know you'll never forgive me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to know, what we had at the beginning, before everything went wrong, that was real. I did love you. I got caught up in. Stop, I said quietly, but my voice carried in the silent courtroom. You don't get to rewrite history now. You married me because I was a successful lawyer who could give you credibility and cover for your schemes. That's what the evidence shows. That's what your own emails prove. There was no real love. There was calculation and manipulation, same as with everyone else. Derek's face crumpled. That's not true. Mr. Ashford, face forward, Judge Carmichael commanded. Mrs. Ashford is correct. Your emails, which are part of the court record, explicitly detail how you targeted her because of her professional reputation and financial stability. You wrote, and I quote, she's perfect, respectable, successful, and too busy with her career to pay attention to what I'm doing. End quote. The courtroom murmured. I'd seen that email weeks ago during discovery, but hearing it read aloud still sent a spike of pain through my chest. Not because I still loved him, that feeling had died at the gala, but because it confirmed that even our first meeting, our courtship, our wedding day, had all been part of his con. Furthermore, the judge continued, you wrote to one of your accomplices that marrying Mrs. Ashford was the best business decision I ever made because her clients became my hunting ground. You used your wife's professional relationships to identify and target your victims. She paused, letting that sink in for everyone present. Therefore, taking into account the severity and duration of your crimes, the number of victims, the amount stolen, and your complete lack of genuine remorse, I hereby sentence you to 23 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. You are ordered to pay full restitution to all victims, totaling $14,700,000. Your assets, which have been frozen, will be liquidated to begin satisfying these debts. 23 years. Derek would be nearly 60 when he got out. His lawyer started to object, but Derek just slumped in his chair, the fight gone out of him completely. Additionally, Judge Carmichael added, I'm recommending you be held at a medium security facility with no possibility of early release. Bailiff, remove the prisoner. As the bailiffs led Derek away, he looked back one final time. Not at me, at the life he was leaving behind. The courtroom, the people, the world where he'd played his games and thought he'd won. That world was closing forever, and he knew it. The gavel fell with a sharp crack that seemed to echo with finality. Outside the courthouse, the reporters swarmed immediately. This time, I was prepared with more than a brief statement. I'd coordinated with the district attorney's office and the FBI to make a joint announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, standing at a podium with Special Agent Rodriguez and DA Patricia Wells flanking me. Today, justice was served. Derek Ashford received a 23-year sentence for crimes that devastated individuals and businesses across multiple states. I paused, looking directly into the cameras. But this case represents more than just one criminal being brought to justice. It highlights a larger problem, sophisticated fraud that targets vulnerable people through emotional manipulation. Derek didn't just steal money. He stole hearts, dreams, and futures. He exploited the basic human need for love and connection. Agent Rodriguez stepped forward. The FBI has established a task force dedicated to identifying and prosecuting similar schemes. We're working with law enforcement across the country to track down other predators who use romance and relationships as vehicles for fraud. DA Wells added, "We encourage anyone who believes they've been victimized by romance fraud or corporate manipulation to come forward. Your story matters. Your loss matters. And we will pursue justice on your behalf." Then I spoke again, and this part was personal. 3 weeks ago, I stood in a ballroom and was publicly humiliated by a woman who'd been deceived into thinking I was her rival. Today, that woman, Natasha, is not my enemy. She's a fellow victim who found the courage to tell her story and help bring Derek to justice. I gestured, and Natasha stepped forward, visibly nervous but determined. "I want other women to learn from my mistakes," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "I believed a charming man who told me everything I wanted to hear. I didn't verify his claims. I didn't question inconsistencies. And when I thought someone was threatening my relationship, I lashed out without knowing the facts. I hurt an innocent woman, Mrs. Ashford, because I was too blinded by what I thought was love." She turned to look at me. "I'm grateful that Mrs. Ashford showed me mercy and gave me a chance to make things right. I'm paying restitution for the damage I caused, and I'm speaking out so other women won't make the same mistakes I did." Cassandra stepped forward next. "My father's company lost millions because I vouched for Derek Ashford. I introduced him to our business, trusted him with confidential information, and lobbied for his promotion. I did this because I believed we were building a future together. That trust cost my family's company dearly, and nearly destroyed our reputation." She looked directly into the nearest camera. "To other women dating someone who seems too perfect, who has all the right answers, who sweeps you off your feet, please verify their story. Talk to their references. Meet their family and longtime friends. Don't let charm blind you to red flags. I learned this lesson the hard way, and I don't want others to suffer the same fate." The press conference continued for another 20 minutes, with reporters asking questions about the case, the investigation, and the broader implications. But the message was clear: Derek Ashford's reign of deception was over, and we were making sure no one else could operate the same way without scrutiny. Later that evening, I returned to the house, my house now, since Derek had signed over all claims in the divorce settlement. I'd had it completely redecorated, erasing every trace of him. New furniture, new colors, new energy. My phone buzzed with a text from Natasha: "Thank you again for everything. First restitution payment sent. Also, I started therapy like you suggested. It's helping." Another text came from Cassandra: "Dad wanted me to tell you that Thornhill Manufacturing is implementing new verification protocols for all senior hires, thanks to your recommendations. We're also establishing a victims fund to help others who were defrauded by Derek." I smiled, typing back responses to both. What had started as a humiliating betrayal had transformed into something larger, a movement to protect others, to hold predators accountable, to ensure that charm and manipulation couldn't triumph over truth and justice. My office had been flooded with new clients, women leaving abusive relationships, employees discovering corporate fraud, individuals who'd been conned and needed help fighting back. Monroe and Associates had become synonymous with fighting for victims' rights, and our reputation had never been stronger. But beyond the professional success, something more important had happened. I'd reclaimed my power. The woman who'd been dragged through a hotel and publicly humiliated had stood up, fought back, and won decisively. Not just in court, but in every way that mattered. I walked to my study and opened the drawer where I kept what remained of my mother's locket. A jewelry restoration specialist had managed to repair the silver casing, though the photograph was beyond saving. But I'd had it restored anyway, and inside I'd placed a new photo, not of my mother, though I'd never forget her, but of myself. A reminder that I was strong enough to survive betrayal, smart enough to fight back, and resilient enough to build something better from the ruins. My phone rang. James Mitchell. "Olivia, I just got word from the FBI. They found 2 more victims in Nevada and 1 in Colorado. The total restitution amount is now over $16 million. Derek's sentence might be extended. Good, I said simply. There's something else. Several law firms have reached out wanting to collaborate on a national database to track fraud cases like this. They want you to lead the initiative. I looked out the window at the city lights twinkling in the darkness. Somewhere out there were other Derek Ashfords, charming predators spinning webs of lies. But now there would be people watching, documenting, ready to pull those webs apart thread by thread. Tell them I'm interested, I said. Let's set up a meeting. Will do. And Olivia? You did good. Really good. After we hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the city below. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a woman whose world was collapsing. Tonight, I was a woman who'd rebuilt that world stronger than before. Derek had tried to destroy me. Instead, he'd unleashed something he never anticipated, a force of justice that wouldn't stop until every victim was heard, every crime punished, every predator exposed. I raised my glass in a silent toast to my mother, to Natasha and Cassandra and all the other women who'd found their strength, to every person who'd ever been betrayed and fought back. Justice wasn't just about courtrooms and sentences. It was about reclaiming your power, your voice, your life. It was about turning pain into purpose and betrayal into breakthrough. Derek Ashford had called me his wife, his victim, his pawn in an elaborate game. He'd been wrong about all of it. I was Olivia Monroe Ashford, lawyer, survivor, advocate, and fighter. And I was just getting started. Coming up next, you'll see 2 more stories we handpicked just for you. If this one struck a chord, you're going to love what's next. Tap to keep the journey going.